All right, long ball number one here on Wednesday, June 11th. I know Jason is excited to dip back into this. Last night, United States men's national team fell 4-0 to Switzerland. And the first half of this, maybe one of the worst performances or most outmatched I think I've ever seen this team, at least in recent memory that I can still recall.
You know that moment when you're a fan of any team in any sport and you're losing, that moment that comes when you realize there's no way back, right? Like, we're not getting back in this game. This is not going to end with a victory. And then you start bargaining. It's a little bit like the stages of grief. And you start doing this thing like, okay, well, let's just not embarrass ourselves anymore. Let's just slow down the bleeding a little bit. That was my experience last night. That first half was so bad that by the time we got to halftime, I was just praying it wasn't going to be 5 or 6 or 7-0 for Switzerland beating the United States of America. And that's about a lot of things, that result last night, Rob. It's about the player selection. Mauricio Pochettino made some choices that I think are very hard to defend. And probably a lot of us would have told him going into the game, why are you picking those players? I mean, we talked about the roster, and we'll dive into this a little bit more in terms of the state of the fan base, the state of soccer, the state of the U.S. men's national team excitement. 1 year out today is 365 days from the start of the 2026 World Cup. Today, Rob.
And yeah, a lot can change in a year. We are certainly in a different place as people and as a nation than we were at this time next year. So who knows? There could be a radical transformation in the fortunes for this team. But based on the evidence at hand, we wouldn't say it's trending up at this point. Like, granted, Poch hasn't had a full deck at his disposal, like overall in the pool, but he didn't even play his best hand with the limited deck that he had last night.
No.
Obviously, when you see, okay, we're at halftime, a whole, half a team of substitutes for the second half, and the game got neutralized. I don't really remember a single thing that happened in the second half other than it was kind of a dead rubber at that point.
Well,
But
look,
the
there were
selections in the first half, to your point, is wow. I mean, we're picking the JV B team at that point,
yeah.
right?
What I'm so you can explain this, and I watched Mauricio Pochettino try to explain things after the game. He kind of did take responsibility, but he did that thing that coaches do now. He did say I made the decisions at one point, and he is speaking in his second language, but he does that thing coaches do now, where they treat the coaching staff as a mini team within the team. So it's never I did this or I chose that or I thought this. It's we did this and we thought that and we chose these players. And I'm like, that just moves responsibility off of your shoulders individually onto it, spreads it out across this group. And yes, I understand you have a staff that you trust and they're important into the process of preparing your team and going out and winning games, hopefully at some point. Uh, but you're the one that gets paid $6 million. You're the one that's there at the dais by yourself answering questions. So this falls on Mauricio Pochettino. So what are our options here, Rob? Is Mauricio Pochettino so naive he didn't understand that player group was going to get hammered by a veteran team with some quality throughout, some players that are playing in top 5 leagues across Europe and Switzerland, or did he not care what it might look like? I understand there's power in not in admitting you don't know something. I try to live that. There's power in admitting you don't know something. And I'm guessing that Pochettino said, well, I don't know if these players can do it. Let me see if they can do it. But they were not set up for success if you're throwing 5 or 6 or 7 guys who have barely ever touched the field for the United States men's national team to the Wolves against a team as competent, and I'm being kind, to Switzerland.
Competent, what you're saying, that competent is a kind word to them? I mean, they had
No,
Champions
no.
League.
What I mean
Yeah.
is I'm underselling Switzerland. Like, I
Oh,
could say
yeah.
Switzerland is better than competent, but they're at least competent. And again, you go into this game basically like, well, let's just see what happens. And that is a strange attitude 1 year out from the World Cup.
Yeah, you could say that the Switzerland team could be a World Cup quarterfinalist level team. I don't know if like the exact lineup that they rolled up last night would be, but Switzerland, no one would be shocked. No one's eyebrows would be raised if Switzerland got to the quarterfinals or even maybe pushed on farther than that. And this starting lineup, I mean, this is the hardest competition, the highest rated team that they're going to face, or at least here in this short little run of games here this summer. And you'd say that this is probably one of the weakest lineups at his disposal, or at least that we've seen. So for context, if you didn't watch last night, the front four, which all got taken out at the halftime break, Brian White, Quinn Sullivan, and then the Aronson brothers all yanked, as well as fullback Max Arfston, the Columbus Crew player, not pulled, but equally questionable. We had on the opposite side a Bethlehem Steel player, Nathan Harriel.
No, he's not a Bethlehem Steel player. He's a Philadelphia Union player, Nathan Harriel, but he was not good enough for that level. You look at that front four that you just mentioned, and lots of talk in that first half about an inability to press together, to find ways to effectively use the press. You either press with numbers when you see those triggers. Like if the ball gets played wide, you need to press with multiple players if you're going to press in order to pin them into that area to try to create the turnover that you're trying to create. Or you don't press. You sit deeper, you invite pressure, and then try to find ways to clog up passing lanes and recover the ball in midfield. And they were not doing one or the other thing last night in that first half. And that was why Switzerland was able to exploit them the way that they did. And again, is this because the players didn't understand the assignment, or because Pochettino didn't tell them how to do it? And it was interesting watching the broadcast on TNT, because Kyle Martino was of the opinion that this was about effort. This is about guys just not committing to things. But at halftime, Brian Dunn goes, these guys aren't good enough. And it's probably both. It's probably both. But I think if you look at that group, you can see where the tactical deficiencies are going to be as soon as he puts it out there, especially against a team that can hold the ball and pass it around like the Swiss.
Yeah. And I mean, he's rolling that. We'll get to it later in the third segment of the show. We're going to dig deeper on how worried we should be about this team. But it is wild that probably a group of some of his most inexperienced players playing against the likes of Granit Xhaka and, Akanji, some of the highest level players that they're going to face. And they put out this lineup. So we shall see. And an interesting comment we were talking about the we of the team is that diverse dispersal of pressure, I believe it is, instead of coming down in one focal point, you spread out that pressure, right? The team. Yeah. And then maybe successes. Good thing to note with that. So if he finds successes in the Gold Cup, does that we turn into an eye? Something to keep an eye on.
I actually don't think I don't want to ascribe any nefarious motives. I think he has an ego. Everybody needs to at that level. But I don't think Mauricio Pochettino is the kind of guy that goes, I'll take credit when things are good and I'll spread blame when things are bad. I don't think that's how he operates. I just think he does not have his hands around this job. And that's troubling is what I would say.
Yeah, we'll get back to this team and dig in a little bit more. Just 5 days ahead of the Gold Cup opener against Trinidad and Tobago.